Hey, Sagittarius. I hope you're having a beautiful day. This is going to be a reading for Sagittarius Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, and North Node. Take what resonates and leave the rest. And before we begin, thank you for all your support, your likes, your comments, and for being part of this amazing community. It truly means more than you know. Okay, the moment I started connecting with your energy, I felt something very strong. There is someone here who has been trying to stay quiet, trying to stay busy, trying to convince themselves they're fine. But honestly, their heart keeps finding its way back to you. Let's see what's going on. The very first thing that's catching my attention is this feeling of distance. Not physical distance necessarily. It's more like emotional distance. It's someone trying to create space between themselves and what they're feeling. And yet, the harder they try to move away from it, the stronger it seems to become. Okay, the moon is sitting here, and I don't know why, but the moment I look at this card, I feel someone lying awake longer than they should. Somebody whose mind refuses to settle down. Somebody who keeps replaying conversations, memories, little details that probably shouldn't matter anymore. But they do. They matter more than this person wants to admit. Because every time they think they've finally moved on, something pulls them right back. A song, a name, a place, a random moment during the day, and suddenly you're there again. It's almost frustrating for them. You know, this feels like somebody who likes having control over their emotions, somebody who usually follows logic, somebody who prefers freedom, space, independence. They don't like feeling attached. At least that's what they tell themselves. But the energy I'm seeing here says something completely different. Because while they're telling the world they're fine, their heart is having an entirely different conversation. And now I'm seeing the Six of Cups. Wow. There is something about your energy that lingers. It's almost impossible for this person to fully disconnect from you, even if they wanted to, even if they tried. You leave a feeling behind. That's the best way I can explain it. A feeling. Not just memories, not just attraction, not just chemistry. It's deeper than that. It's like they carry your energy with them, sometimes without even realizing it. I keep seeing this person doing everyday things, driving somewhere, walking through a store, sitting at work, scrolling through their phone, and somehow, you appear in their thoughts, again, and again, and again. Honestly, I don't think they expected this connection to affect them the way it has. I really don't. Because when they first met you, there was probably a part of them that thought this would be simple. Just another person, just another connection, nothing too serious. Nothing life-changing, but that's not what happened. Something shifted. Something opened inside of them. And now they can't seem to close that door. Okay, the star is showing itself now. And I have to tell you, the energy changes immediately when this card appears. Because the way they're looking at you is different. Very different. It's almost like you became a reference point in their life. You became the person they compare everyone else to. And I don't even know if they've admitted that out loud. But I feel it. I feel it strongly. Because after meeting you, certain situations stopped feeling right. Certain conversations stopped feeling fulfilling. Certain connections lost their spark. Not because those things changed, but because this person changed. Their perspective changed. And somehow, you were part of that. You brought something into their life that they weren't expecting. A different way of looking at things. A different way of feeling. A different possibility. And I keep hearing this thought inside their head. What is it about this person? Because they don't fully understand it. They've tried to analyze it, they've tried to explain it, they've tried to rationalize it, and yet every answer seems incomplete. There is always something left unexplained. Something that keeps pulling them back toward you. And now, wow, King of Cups, there you are. This energy has been building throughout the reading, because beneath all the silence, beneath all the distance, beneath all the attempts to appear unaffected, there are feelings here. Real feelings. Deep feelings. Feelings that have been sitting beneath the surface for much longer than anyone realizes. This person isn't showing everything. Not yet. They're still holding pieces of themselves back. They're still protecting certain emotions. But I keep getting this image of water pressing against a dam. The pressure keeps building. The emotions keep building. And every day it becomes harder for them to pretend those feelings aren't there. Because the truth is, you have touched a part of this person's heart that very few people have ever reached. And the more they try to understand what is happening, the more they find themselves thinking about you, looking for you, wondering about you, carrying you with them into moments where they never expected you to appear. And honestly, as I sit here looking at these cards, it feels like they're beginning to realize that this connection may have changed far more inside of them than they ever intended. What I'm noticing here is that the energy begins to shift the moment this person stops running from themselves. Not from you, from themselves. Because for a long time, it was easier to blame circumstances, easier to stay distracted, easier to keep moving. I keep seeing somebody filling every empty space with something. Work, responsibilities, friends, noise, anything that could keep them from sitting alone with their thoughts. Yet every road they took somehow led them back to the same question. Why am I still carrying this connection? Okay, the devil just landed on the table. And the feeling I'm getting from this card isn't about you. It's about everything that has been wrapped around this person for far too long. People, patterns, situations, habits. There is something here that they've been attached to because it felt familiar, not because it made them happy. And that's a very important difference, because familiarity can feel safe, even when it's draining you, even when it's exhausting you, even when deep down you know it no longer belongs in your life. You know, I feel like this person spent a long time convincing themselves that they could manage both worlds. One foot in something that was comfortable, one foot in a connection that challenged them to become more. And eventually, that tension became impossible to ignore, because the more they tried to maintain the old version of their life, the heavier everything started to feel. I don't know why, but I'm seeing somebody staring out a window, not doing anything, not looking at their phone, just sitting there, thinking. Almost like they're finally hearing thoughts they've been avoiding for months. And that's where the Three of Swords appears. Wow, there is sadness here, a lot of it. Not only because of what happened, not only because of what was lost. This feels deeper. This feels like somebody realizing how much time they've spent fighting themselves. Because when I look at these cards together, I don't see somebody blaming other people anymore. I see somebody looking in the mirror, and that can be uncomfortable. That can be painful. Because once you start seeing the truth, you can't unsee it. I keep hearing this energy say, I knew. I knew something wasn't right. I knew I wasn't happy. I knew I was settling. And yet they stayed. Maybe out of loyalty. Maybe out of fear. Maybe because change felt overwhelming. Whatever the reason was, they're beginning to understand how much of themselves they sacrificed, trying to maintain something that had already run its course. This is interesting, because your energy keeps showing up in strange ways throughout this reading, not as the center of their problem, but almost as a mirror, a comparison. Every time they examine a situation that drains them, they remember how different it felt around you. Every time they experience conflict, confusion, manipulation, or emotional exhaustion, something inside them quietly compares it to the peace they felt in your presence. And nobody taught them to do that. It just happens naturally. Because once you've experienced something genuine, it's hard to pretend that everything else feels the same. Okay, judgment. There it is. And the atmosphere around the reading changes again. This feels like somebody waking up after a very long sleep. Not overnight, not all at once. Little by little, piece by piece. They're starting to connect dots that never made sense before. Conversations, decisions, people they trusted, people they listened to, people who influenced them. It's almost like they're looking back and seeing an entirely different story than the one they believed before. I keep getting this image of a bookshelf, old books being removed one by one, and underneath them, hidden for years, are things they never noticed. That's what this feels like. A deeper truth revealing itself, one layer at a time. And the strange thing is, the more awareness they gain, the less interested they become in maintaining appearances. Things that once felt important no longer carry the same weight. Approval, validation, status, keeping everybody happy. There is a growing sense that none of those things matter if you're abandoning your own heart in the process. Wow. The Tower just came out, and whenever this card appears, I pay attention. Because something is shifting, something is cracking. Not necessarily on the outside yet, This feels internal, like a structure inside their mind beginning to collapse. An old belief, an old narrative, an old excuse. Whatever it is, it can no longer support the weight of what they're discovering. I keep hearing, what if I've been looking at this all wrong? That's the question. And once that question enters someone's mind, everything starts changing. Not because they suddenly have all the answers, because they don't. In fact, I think this person has more questions than ever. But they're finally asking the right ones, and that's very different. Because before, they were asking how to avoid change, how to maintain control, how to keep everything exactly as it was. Now they're asking what is actually true, what is actually real, what genuinely brings peace into their life. And Sagittarius, as these cards continue unfolding in front of me, it feels like they're standing between two worlds right now. One that they've known for a very long time, and another that they don't fully understand yet. Their eyes keep drifting toward that second path, even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels unfamiliar. Because something inside them has started questioning everything they once believed was enough. Something about that realization seems to have slowed everything down. Not in a bad way. More like somebody finally stopped rushing long enough to hear their own thoughts. The noise isn't as loud anymore. The distractions aren't working the way they used to. And I keep seeing this person becoming much more selective about where their energy goes. Okay, the Hermit is here. The room feels quieter the moment this card appears. I don't know why, but I'm getting this image of someone sitting alone early in the morning before everyone else wakes up. No television, no music, no conversations, just silence. The kind of silence that feels uncomfortable at first, and then strangely comforting. Because for perhaps the first time in a long while, they're no longer trying to escape themselves. They're listening. They're observing. They're paying attention to what has been happening inside of them. You know, a lot of people assume silence means somebody doesn't care. That if a person truly feels something, they'll immediately rush toward it. Yet that isn't what I'm seeing here. This feels like somebody who has reached a point where they understand they can't carry old versions of themselves into the future they're hoping to build. So instead of running toward the connection, they're turning inward. And that takes more courage than most people realize. I keep feeling this deep sense of responsibility around them. Not pressure exactly, responsibility. As if they're looking at different areas of their life and asking, what needs to change? What needs attention? What have I been neglecting? And every answer leads them back to work they need to do on themselves. Okay, 8 of Pentacles. There it is. This energy feels very focused, very intentional. I'm seeing somebody putting their head down and working, not because they're trying to forget you, not because they're replacing the connection. Quite the opposite. The more they care, the more aware they become of everything that still needs improvement. I keep seeing lists, schedules, goals, appointments, projects, plans. There is a determination around them that wasn't present before. Almost like they've decided they don't want to keep repeating the same cycle. They don't want to keep arriving at the same crossroads. And because of that, they're investing time into creating something stronger. A stronger foundation. A stronger future. A stronger version of themselves. I don't know why, but I keep hearing, I need to get my life together. Not from a place of shame, not from a place of self-criticism. It feels more mature than that. It feels like somebody finally taking ownership of their journey. And Sagittarius, I think that's why this period can feel confusing from the outside. Because while they're becoming more serious about their life, they're becoming quieter too. Less reactive, less impulsive, more thoughtful. The energy feels very different than before. Okay, Knight of Pentacles. Interesting, because this card changes the pace of the reading. Everything slows down. Every movement feels deliberate, calculated, measured. I keep getting the sense that this person is tired of rushing into things without thinking. Tired of making emotional decisions one day and questioning them the next. Tired of starting things they aren't ready to finish. There's a patience developing inside of them. Not perfect patience. They're still human. They still have moments of doubt, moments of frustration, moments where they wish everything were easier. Yet they're learning something important about timing. I can feel that. For some reason, I'm seeing someone fixing pieces of a house. Not building a new house, repairing one room at a time, one wall at a time, one problem at a time. And maybe that's exactly how their life feels right now. They're looking around and realizing there are things that need attention before they can fully move forward. Things that should have been addressed long ago. And instead of avoiding them, they're finally doing the work. Wow. Temperance just appeared. And I have to smile when I see this card, because everything feels softer, calmer, more balanced. Not finished, just calmer. Like the storm inside of them isn't raging the way it once was. I keep feeling someone learning how to trust themselves again. Learning how to sit with difficult emotions without immediately reacting to them. Learning how to create peace instead of chaos. And that's not easy, especially for somebody who has spent years navigating uncertainty. Years carrying wounds they rarely talk about. Years convincing themselves they were fine when they weren't. You know, there is a maturity growing here that comes from experience. Not from age, not from knowledge, from experience, from making mistakes, from getting hurt, from seeing what works and what doesn't. And every lesson seems to be reshaping them little by little. The fascinating thing is that your energy remains present throughout all of this. Not in a loud way, not in a demanding way. It's almost like a quiet motivation, a reminder, a vision of what they hope to create one day. And I don't think they tell many people that. In fact, I feel like most of what they're going through right now stays hidden beneath the surface. Friends may notice they're more focused. Family may notice they're more distant. Coworkers may notice they're more driven. Yet very few people understand the emotional journey happening underneath it all. Because while everyone else sees progress, this person is carrying something much deeper. A growing awareness that becoming who they're meant to become requires letting go of who they've been for a very long time. And as I sit here looking at these cards, it feels like they're standing in the middle of that transformation. Not quite who they used to be anymore. Not fully who they're becoming yet. Just taking one careful step after another, while something inside them continues quietly evolving. A version of them is slowly disappearing. Not because somebody forced it to, not because life demanded it, because they're beginning to feel exhausted carrying things that no longer reflect who they are. And one of the most noticeable changes I'm picking up on is how difficult it has become for them to keep their feelings hidden. You know, some people are very good at pretending, very good at acting unaffected, very good at making it seem like nothing touches them. This person has spent a long time living in that energy, keeping things private, keeping things controlled, keeping everything locked behind a carefully built wall. Yet something interesting is happening here. The wall isn't crumbling dramatically, it's becoming transparent. People around them are starting to see through it. Okay, Page of Swords just showed up. And immediately I feel curiosity, observation, attention. There is so much attention surrounding this connection. I keep seeing conversations that begin with something completely unrelated, and somehow, your name appears. Your story appears. A memory appears. A random detail about you appears. It's almost unconscious. They don't even realize how often they're bringing you up. One moment they're talking about work. The next moment they're saying, "That reminds me of someone." Or, "I know somebody who would love that." And somehow that somebody is always you. I don't know why, but I'm smiling as I say this, because it feels so natural, so human. They're not sitting around making grand declarations. They're simply carrying you into everyday conversations. And the people closest to them are noticing, very clearly. I keep seeing one particular friend, somebody who knows this person extremely well, somebody who's watched them through different chapters of life, different relationships, different experiences. And this friend already knows. Maybe not every detail, maybe not the entire story, but they know enough. Because every time your name comes up, something changes in this person's energy. Their expression softens, their voice changes, their eyes light up, even if only for a second. And those little moments are difficult to hide from people who genuinely know you. This friend feels important, because I don't think they're judging the situation. They're observing it, watching it unfold. And I keep hearing them say something like, "You talk about them a lot," or "You seem different when you mention them." Simple comments, small observations, yet they land directly where they need to, because this person can't deny it anymore, not even to themselves. Okay, judgment. Wow. The atmosphere shifts immediately. Because this card feels like truth finding its way into the open. Not all at once, not dramatically, just honestly. One conversation at a time, one realization at a time, one admission at a time. I keep feeling somebody becoming more comfortable with what they feel. Not necessarily comfortable expressing it yet. There's a difference. They're still figuring that part out, but they're no longer spending all their energy denying it. And that's huge. Because denial requires effort. Pretending requires effort. Avoiding requires effort. The moment somebody stops doing those things, they suddenly have room to see what's actually there. And what's there is much deeper than they expected. Much deeper than they originally wanted it to be. The fascinating thing is that the more truthful they become with themselves, the more open they become with other people too. Not intentionally, it just happens. I keep seeing little pieces of the truth escaping. Little hints, little clues. Things they would have hidden before. Things they would have immediately brushed aside before. Yet they aren't doing that anymore. It's almost like they're tired of carrying everything alone. Okay, King of Cups. There he is again. And every time this card appears, I feel this ocean beneath the surface. Calm on top, deep underneath. That's exactly what this person feels like. Most people around them only see the surface, the composed version, the collected version, the version that appears completely in control. Yet underneath that surface, there is so much more happening. I keep feeling emotions that have matured, emotions that have been tested, emotions that have survived confusion, distance, uncertainty, and silence. And because of that, they feel more real now, not less. Sometimes people think feelings disappear when enough time passes. Yet that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing feelings becoming clearer, stronger, more defined, like a photograph slowly coming into focus. You know, the strange thing is that this person may have spent a long time believing they needed to choose between vulnerability and strength, as if they couldn't be both, as if admitting what they feel somehow made them weak. Yet life has been teaching them something different. Every experience they've been through recently seems to be showing them that honesty takes strength too, maybe even more strength. And because of that, they're beginning to carry themselves differently, speak differently, think differently, react differently. The shift is subtle, yet it's there. Wow. Six of Cups, and the feeling coming from this card is beautiful. Because while everybody else is noticing pieces of what's happening, the deepest moments are still happening when nobody is around. Late drives, quiet evenings, random memories, unexpected reminders. Those moments when life slows down just enough for somebody to hear their own heart. I keep seeing them smile unexpectedly, not because something happened right in front of them, because they remembered something, a conversation, a laugh, a look, a feeling, something connected to you. And for a second, all their responsibilities disappear. All the noise disappears. All the complications disappear. It's just that feeling again. That familiar feeling they've been carrying for much longer than most people realize. And as these cards continue unfolding in front of me, it feels like the distance between what they feel internally and what they're willing to admit publicly is becoming smaller and smaller. That gap is becoming harder for them to live inside. The space between what they feel and what they allow themselves to do. The space between what their heart knows and what their life currently looks like. I keep feeling somebody standing at a crossroads. Not because they're confused anymore, because they're beginning to understand exactly what matters. And that realization changes everything. Okay, Judgment is back. And every time this card appears in this reading, it feels stronger, clearer, more settled. Like somebody has finally stopped arguing with themselves. You know, there are moments in life when a person reaches a point where they simply can't return to who they used to be. Not because they don't try, because they've seen too much, learned too much, felt too much. And that's what I'm seeing here. I keep getting the image of somebody looking back over the past year of their life, looking at every choice, every mistake, every lesson, every person who entered and left, and realizing that all of it changed them. There is no going back to the version of themselves that existed before this awakening began. That version is gone. The person sitting here today is seeing things through completely different eyes. The interesting thing is that this awareness doesn't feel dramatic. It feels grounded, almost practical, like somebody quietly making a decision in their heart before they ever speak it out loud. And that's where the energy begins shifting towards something much more tangible, much more real. Because I can feel them asking themselves a different kind of question. Not, what do I feel? They already know the answer to that. The question becoming louder is, what can I build? What can last? What has real value? Okay, King of Pentacles. There it is. And I have to tell you, the atmosphere around this card feels incredibly different from where this reading began. Because at the beginning, there was uncertainty, emotion, reflection, questions. Now I'm seeing somebody looking at the future through a more mature lens. They're thinking about stability, consistency, responsibility, long-term decisions, not fantasy, not imagination, reality. And that matters. Because for a long time, this person may have believed that feelings alone were enough. Yet experience has shown them something else. Feelings matter, but actions matter too. Commitment matters. Effort matters. Showing up matters. I keep seeing somebody organizing their life, almost preparing financially, preparing emotionally, preparing mentally. Not because somebody is forcing them to, because they want to feel ready when the moment comes to move forward. You know, this feels like somebody who wants to stand on solid ground. They don't want to offer uncertainty anymore. They don't want to arrive carrying the same confusion they carried before. There is pride here, healthy pride. The kind that says, if I do this, I want to do it right. Wow, Queen of Pentacles. And the moment this card appears, your energy fills the reading again. Not loudly, not dramatically, just steadily. Like you've been present the entire time. Because when this person thinks about the future, your energy seems connected to it. I keep hearing them compare different possibilities, different paths, different outcomes. And somehow your presence keeps appearing in those visions. Not because they're forcing it, because it naturally belongs there. And there's admiration here too. A tremendous amount of respect. They're seeing qualities in you that become more valuable with time. The way you carry yourself, the way you protect your peace, the way you know your worth, the way you continue moving forward even when things feel uncertain. Those things matter, perhaps more than you realize. Because this person has been watching, learning, observing, and I think part of their growth has come from seeing how you've handled your own journey. Okay, the Chariot just landed, and the energy shifts again. Not rushed, not impulsive, focused, purposeful. I keep getting this image of somebody finally choosing a direction. No more circles, no more standing still, no more looking backward every 5 minutes. There is movement in their spirit, movement in their mindset, movement in the way they see their future. And while everything around them may not be changing overnight, something important has already changed internally. They've stopped seeing obstacles as permanent. They've stopped seeing limitations as absolute. They're beginning to believe there are solutions where they once saw dead ends. And that's powerful, because every meaningful change begins there first, inside, long before anybody else can see it. Six of Cups. What a beautiful card to appear here. Because despite all this growth, all this maturity, all this planning, there is still something incredibly soft underneath everything. A tenderness, a warmth, a feeling that never really disappeared. I keep seeing memories surfacing again, not painful ones, comforting ones. Moments that remind them why this connection stayed with them through every season of transformation. It's almost like they're carrying a photograph in their heart, something they return to whenever life becomes overwhelming, whenever doubt appears, whenever they need to remember what feels genuine. And the more these cards unfold, the more I feel somebody stepping closer to alignment. Not perfection, alignment. Their thoughts are becoming clearer. Their priorities are becoming clearer. Their intentions are becoming clearer. The pieces that once felt scattered are beginning to fit together. And as I sit here looking at this spread, it feels like they're standing on the edge of an entirely new chapter. Not because everything has already happened, because they finally understand which direction their heart has been pointing toward all along. As I sit here looking at these cards one last time, the strongest feeling I'm walking away with is that not every silence means something is ending. Sometimes silence is where the deepest changes begin. Sometimes it's where people finally face the truths they've been avoiding for a very long time. Whatever part of this message resonated with you, Trust your own intuition above everything else. You know your story better than anyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to share this space with you. Thank you for your kindness, your support, your beautiful energy, and for spending a little piece of your day here with me. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Sagittarius, you are very important to me, and I'll see you again in the next reading. Until then, take care of yourself, keep following your heart, and keep protecting your peace. Okay, bye-bye.